All right, welcome everybody to the Owatonna Wrestling Weekly Podcast, Season 4, Episode 5. Hope you're binging it, rewatching, re-listening, all that. I'm head coach Derek Johnson of the Owatonna Wrestling Program, and by my side, as always, is Coach Gabe Hovden, our Min USA director, which means folk style, freestyle, and Greco for the OWA, as well as middle school coach. As well as captain's practice drill sergeant. Kind of all things included. And before we get started, want to thank Kohl's Electric. Kohl's Electric, a longtime sponsor of the Owatonna Wrestling Association, and our marquee sponsor right now. If you're interested, we do have a corporate sponsorship capital campaign type of deal, and we're getting posters done up. Our wrestling book is in production. The mentions on here for sure. And we just appreciate any and all support for this great sport and for this long storied program that is on our way back to domination. So Thank you, Kohl's Electric. Appreciate
Thank
that.
you very much.
With that, speaking of electric, both boys and girls at the high school level were on fire on Saturday. So what was funny, though, is we were about, I think it's like 45 minutes away, even though we were 2 hours west. So the boys were at Wabasso over by Marshall, and then the girls were like straight south at St. James.
Okay.
Long day for the girls. Us guys, we got out of there by like 3:30, so kind of bragged a little bit, but 2 hour drive back. So on the boys' side, we had 3 duels that day. We started off, they rifled through some 3-man round robins for JV, and we looked, once again, pretty dang sharp. I think almost everyone was technically bumped up on the JV side, and just sought out some great competition. We looked pretty darn sharp there. And then on the varsity side, we had 3 duels. A little bit of a rivalry now. We wrestle these guys all the time. Maple River-USC, great program. We have a good relationship with their coaching staff and their kids. And now I'm really loving it because we beat them 45-15. No, it was we looked so incredibly solid all day. So we started with them, Maple River-USC. Then we went on to defeat Tracy Milroy, who's a very plucky team. Minneota was there, who's 7th ranked in Class A. I was hoping we'd get matched up with them. We didn't. But Tracy Milroy actually gave Minneota a run, and we beat Tracy Milroy 54-14. So we kind of took care of business. And then Adrian's a little down this year. So
I just looked at that score. I'm like,
57-6.
Adrian?
Yep, 57-6. And that was one where basically it was down to like 89-ish last year to where we were finally able to kind of secure the victory. But they have some holes, I think injuries, but also they graduated some guys here and there. So they forfeited 4 total weights.
Okay.
And then on top of it, we kind of helped them out a little bit, gave a kid a match. Riley Krieger was very, very kind to that kid.
Okay.
But he was more JV worthy and stuff. Shout out to Coach Greg Nelson. He was a good sport with all that. We talked through the lineup before that duel and really set out to try to just find good matches.
Good matches, all right.
To recap some kind of highlights, once again, we looked incredibly sharp. Like against Maple River, one of their captains and a guy who's kind of given us fits in the past, the older Gonzalez brother, Isaiah, was at 152. He weighed in at 45, but he bumped to 52. Away from Hyatt, but into Colton Glendy's waiting arms, who rattled off a tech fall on him 15-0 early into the second period. Put on an absolute clinic. He came out like a ball of fire. Maple River's new head coach, we had talked, we were chatting a little bit before the duel about, leaders and the hardest workers in the room, and I made sure to point out, some of the guys that as underclassmen have actually been very surprising, like Colton Glendy, like Gabe Robb, who just both are incredibly positive and relentless work ethic. And then sure enough, both showed out really well in that duel. And so he's like, that Glendy kid. I'm like, yeah. So Parker Casas now down to 139, his good competition weight. He had a big overtime win. He went 2-1 on the day, looking incredibly sharp. And then of all things that happen, Byron Getchell, another one of their captains who's been ranked, I'm not sure if he's currently ranked, but he's been ranked before, and he bumped up and wrestled Logan Risser. Logan Risser took him to the wire, 5-4, lost to a kid who has been as high as ranked second in the state before.
Okay.
So Logan Risser had an awesome day, kind of tweaked his shoulder in the process. So unfortunately, the next match, he was in pain, the whole time. So feel for him there. But then the second duel, Tracy Milroy, had some cool moments. Gabe Robb with a last-second tilt to go ahead with his near fall. One of their really jacked-looking sophomores. It was kind of cool to watch. The guys that we expected to take care of business did. Caden Lindquist, Miles Ozzie when he was at 107. Gabe Robb had a big fun day. But then, Lane Karsten and Hyatt delivered as they usually do. So that was cool to see. And against Tracy Milroy, we were able to have, we did a little bump job. So we had Risser lost a close one at 89, but then we bumped up Ryan Feltz to 215. He put on a clinic and got a pin.
Nice.
And so Fischer then ended that one. We wanted to save. Keller had a really tight match against Maple River, just down to the wire and everything. So he had a near loss there, and then we wanted to save him for Adrian because we knew that would be a little tougher match. And so it was cool to get Feltzy a win. In that one, RJ Renardi, his first match back in about a month, illness and all kinds of stuff, and we were just trying to get him into better shape as well. He went out there against an absolute bowling ball of muscle. This kid from Tracy Milroy had just wild, crazy scramble. I want to actually video it and put it on Facebook or something. It was the weirdest, crazy flurry, but ended up on top as RJ does. Got the pin. That kid didn't even know what hit him. It was just insane. So that was cool to see. And then Adrian, once again, they were pretty depleted, but there were some crucial matches, technically the first match, so they forfeited the first 3 weights, which meant Gabe Robb, 8th grader, against Mo Erdman, number 4 ranked in the state, senior captain from Adrian, who came out like a ball of fire, took down Gabe a few times at the beginning of the match. Gabe rode him out and got 3 stall calls out of the kid in the second half of the second period all the way through the third period.
Really?
Gabe ended on top. Just ground him down, couldn't quite get the tilt. So he lost, but at the same time, it was won. A moral victory. Yes. And I'm sorry, if you're whining about the stall calls against your senior number 4 ranked kid who just can't get away from an 8th grader, it's all right, Gabe was doing some stuff
his job.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And then another great match from Casas in that one. Hyatt took care of business, Lane took care of business. Their other kind of stud kid was 172, so it was RJ again. RJ double overs, big old toss on the edge. Right before that match, I was like, we should talk more about what we've been going over on practice and his go behinds and everything. And then I was like, you know what? His first match is back. I'm sure the nerves are going to be there. So what does he do? He goes back to what he knows. Yep. And that's a big throw. And then Blake Fischer, right after that, so he's ranked, and then he had a ranked kid from Adrian. Won a tough match, and even though it was 1-0 with Blake getting the win, Blake worked him. I mean, absolutely worked him. This kid just had that double jointed shoulder stuff. Okay. Blake kept getting a good bar on, and then all of a sudden, whoop, just a slippery. Arm. Yeah, exactly. So Blake did a good job. It was nothing to hang his head against. You want it to be more dominant, but Blake did all the action.
Okay.
Just kind of didn't work out that way. And then Keller, same thing. I think it was double overs. Big. He turned that into a headlock against another big kid from Adrian, and so same thing with Caden, where it's okay, where's the double we've been working on? But we'll get there. He for him too. So he's been a little gun shy because he's coming off last season. He was on and off with a bad knee problem, and I think it kind of took its toll both physically and maybe a little confidence wise. So that's to be expected, and we're excited that we do have someone that can step in as Max Flemke's been out with turf toe and a shoulder issue as well. And so to have Caden and we don't really skip a beat is pretty awesome.
Yeah.
So And then the girls. So they were down in St. James, which ended up being like a 200-plus girl tournament with giant brackets. All of our girls, we originally had it to where Kayla Pastika at 100, Isabelle at 106, McKayla Selle at 139, and Aliah Fischer at 148. Those were going to be our only varsity side because of the crazy tournament it is. Well, they needed more girls for the varsity side, so we pulled everybody over. And so I'll kind of roll through a little bit. I got a chance to talk to Coach Ewell about how that went. Our number 4 ranked Kayla Pastika at 100 did not place. Well, when you have the top 3 girls from Iowa in your bracket, and Iowa girls wrestling is very advanced.
Yes, they are. They've been doing it a little bit longer.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's Iowa.
And it's Iowa, yep. So she didn't place, but she went 2 and 2.
Yeah.
And really, she got seeded 13th because they seeded before Coach Ewell was there, and honestly, you could tell that went by just Iowa rankings on a lot of stuff and gave a lot of leeway to them. So yeah, she wasn't like crazy happy about it, but at the same time, it's Kayla. She has nothing. I mean, both losses were to ranked girls, and that's what happens.
And she's only a freshman.
Only a freshman, yeah. High standards for herself. Love that. Crazy good work ethic. But Isabelle Townley, 106. Now, she better get ranked after all this, after her tournaments, because she went out and took first place and outstanding wrestler of the tournament. So she also, I think, was seeded like 12th, like just stupid, ridiculous, whatever. Went tech, pin, tech in the finals.
Yeah, to tech somebody in a finals at a tournament of that size and quality that's there, that's got to be something. And then I did see a picture. Is it true that she got a princess crown?
I think the full dress and gown too.
Oh, right there. I didn't get that picture. I just got a picture with her. I got a picture sent to me from somebody. You know, the battle princess crown that the battle princesses wear. The little crown, and I thought it was great. I mean, it's a great picture, and good job, Isabelle.
Yeah, she's. I mean, this is awesome to see. You know, you can't have a better senior season right now the way it's going. And once again, put some respect on Isabelle Townley's name, rankings guy.
Yeah.
Like, it's time. Like, she has just been ripping through people.
But the thing is, to be an underdog, it's you're going after them. You don't have to worry about, I'm ranked here, and this girl's ranked below me. I can't lose. No, she's going out there and just beating them all. It doesn't matter.
Absolutely. And then Lucinda was in the same bracket as a non-scorer at 106. Very crazy tough bracket. Went 1 and 2 though.
Yeah.
Like, still, it's cool to see. She's someone who, without a Kayla Pastika at 100, without an Isabelle Townley at 106, any team would be lucky to have her. Yeah. And so it's just, right now you're behind Isabelle Townley, someone who's just on fire. So that's to be expected. McKayla Selle, 139, went 2 and 2 in the varsity girls bracket. Like, that's awesome to see, too. She is such a fighter. She is such a natural athlete, but also, like, a crazy hard worker. And she's still progressing, still improving. And
still
finally,
learning.
Yeah,
still learning.
Still learning. And, I mean, I think last week was the first week she actually was not sick at any of the practices.
Okay.
Like, she's just been kind of battling stuff this whole time, too. And then Aliah at 148 took 5th place. Now, here's why you take 5th place. She got seeded horribly. I think she had the number 2 seed first round and lost that match, and the highest you could place is 5th. So then she went 0-1 and then won 4 straight in a row, ripped through. She had a key victory in the consolation semis against Franco of Centennial. Just, you know, once again, she's on the mend. She couldn't even practice today because her ankle's so bad. So it's like, that's kind of a week-to-week thing, battling that type of pain.
Yeah.
So only a freshman, once again, if it was a senior, it'd be like, oh, you got to go, you got to go.
Cut it out.
But we got to think a little long-term with Aliah as well. And then in the same bracket, Ella went 1 and 2. Like, Ella Montanye went 1 and 2, which is awesome. And they're both, like, down to more of, like, their fighting weight.
Yeah.
So that's good, too, where it's finally kind of an even match, strength to strength, with who they're going against, so that's great. And then Harmony Pipkins, 2 and 2 on the day.
2 and 2.
At 170.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Yep. So She's a second year. Ella is a second year. McKayla is a second year. Isabelle, I think, is like a third year, maybe fourth. So it's cool to see. They are leaps and bounds improving. It's awesome. And then this week, so tomorrow, Tuesday, we're hosting the Minnesota Region 1 ninth grade team qualifier. We have 6 other teams coming to town, and top 3 advance to the ninth grade team state. That's something that we're new to hosting, and we're looking to kind of build that out. And honestly, it's probably going to have to turn into like a Saturday at some point, because we're hoping being more centrally located should pull in more teams in the future. Ninth grade league is something that is a great bridge between high-end middle school, but not quite ready to get pulled up to high school and JV. Yeah, and there's some JV kids. So it's mostly, I would say, probably 7th and 8th graders with some 9th graders on it. Going forward, they're going to be loosening up some of the regulations on it to where it's going to be synonymous basically with JV too. Okay. So that'll be good. We purposely held some kids, for example, we would have Kayla Pastika wrestling. We would have Aliah Fischer wrestling 9th grade state. But because it's technically not MSHSL right now, we have to keep that separate. Yep. So that's tomorrow. And then Saturday, the boys wrestle a quad, just varsity, at Zumbrota. That is an absolute meat grinder. It's number 2 ranked Zumbrota. It's number 2 ranked Kenyon Wanamingo and Centennial and us. So that's always a really tough day. Luckily, we always end on Centennial, so that's kind of nice because it gives us a little confidence coming out of there. But yeah, that's always a good measuring stick and good for the guys. And then the girls are traveling Friday because they're going all the way up to Bemidji for this giant tournament again. So they're wrestling on Saturday in that.
Yes, and I mean, traveling that far, you get to see girls you don't get to see ever anywhere else unless you meet at state. Mm-hmm. So which will be a good thing. You'll get to see a whole different style of wrestling. You get to see the northern girls.
Yeah, and that was the good thing about that St. James tournament too. Like getting all those Iowa girls in. Hey, they're girls you're never going to see at state, but like good measuring stick and some variety and so. And you guys had a big
we had a
Saturday.
Big Saturday. Middle school. We were up at Coon Rapids on Saturday morning, bright and early, 5:45 bus leave time. We ended up in 4th place. 4th place, there was 9 or 10 teams there, so we did okay. We had some great wrestlers shine out. Luke Casas went with 2 pins, 2 wins, 1 loss. So we did great there. And then also we had another champion from Owen Flatland. Went 3-0 on the day with 1 pin. Griffin Jordell. He went 1-2, but the match that he did win, he was down 5-0, came back and won 8-5. Oh, wow. So came back after that one. Another Monte. Maddie, first time wrestling. She got stuck in a bracket of all boys. So this tournament, I personally don't like how it's ran, but they just take all 6th through 8th graders, and if you're the same weight, you're in a bracket. There's no girls division. There's no, there's nothing separating them. So she went out there and got second. She went 2-1 with 1 pin on her first tournament. She's only been practicing maybe
second tournament,
yeah.
She won Stockwell.
Yep, she won Stockwell. Yep. I mean, she's only been practicing a total, there's 2 practices and then 2 practices before that. Four practices. So I don't know if it's if her sister's showing her stuff at home, but she's actually doing moves. It's not
I hear that, they're clearing out some space, and I'd be willing to bet there's going to be a wrestling mat in the basement soon
I'm sure
enough.
There's going to be some battles coming here pretty soon.
Yep.
And then also Atlas Shoulder-Girdis. I hope I said it right. I know that. I know
the financial advisor name.
Shoulder-Girdis. He went 3-0 with 3 pins, and I think his first pin shocked him. He hit a blast double. The kid just didn't know it was even coming. He just hit it. Kid ended up falling straight back. He jumped on, threw on a half, pinned the kid within like 15 seconds, and he got up, and you could just see it in his eyes like, I just did that. Yeah. And then the second match, I said, okay, let's just change one thing let's set up the shot rather than just shooting. Set it up, did the same thing. But the kid went to his belly, I put on half, ended up running it, pinned him.
Oh, nice.
And then he's all pumped, and then his third match got another pin. Wow. I'm going to give him the outstanding wrestler for Owatonna at that tournament. And then Mason Sorensen again, 3-0 with 3 pins. We have a lot more other stats too. I'm just not going to run through them all, but I mean, all in all, we had a very good day. We had kids that haven't been getting wins. So we're improving our percentages is starting to go from the losing side where we're breaking up. Now we're winning more than we're losing. So that's good. But then I also have we had 2 wrestlers from Owatonna go up and wrestle the individual side at the Rumble on the Red.
Oh, okay.
So we had Asher Johnson and Owen Sorensen. Owen Sorensen and Asher I think had a 44-man bracket.
Jeez.
And then Owen I think had a 39-man bracket, 38 or 39-man bracket. Owen ended up going 6-1 and took second place. Asher, I talked with his dad to see how he did. He went 2-2. His first 2 matches, he won, and then Asher's only in 4th grade, but it's 4th and 5th grade. He ran into two 5th graders the next 2 matches, lost them. But if he would have had, from what I was told, if he would have had about 5 more seconds, he was down. He kept battling on top and ended up turning the kid. Just wasn't enough time to pin him. But Dad said if he would have had about 5 to 10 more seconds, it would have been a pin because he had him all balled up and tight. So, so he went 2-2 at the Rumble on the Red. So that's what I got for the USA and for the junior high. Nice. I know this Thursday we are in Lakeville for just a regular meet, just a dual meet against Lakeville on Thursday afternoon.
Yep. Nice. And then I know OWA Youth this Sunday at the Medford tournament.
Yep.
So OWA Youth, we pay for that entry fee.
Yep.
If it's something you want to try out, hey, it's only 5 miles away. Yep. Fun tournament. They always do a great job.
Yeah, it's a great ran tournament too.
Yeah. I really like that. So feel free to check that out. That's awesome. And one thing I want to bring up real quick too is a few of the things coming up. We have Alumni Night Thursday, January 23rd. So that's around the corner. That's a big quad with we have Faribault, Winona, and Austin all there. Okay. We're gonna have to be in both gyms for that sucker, so that'll be jam packed. And then our Thursday, February 7th is senior. I'm going to say senior family recognition night.
Okay.
So that'll be another good one. That's with Mankato West and JM, and we're going to try to put that under the lamp. And then, we're still looking to add in talks with adding one more dual meet, and we'll see if we can get that at home. But in the future, we'll be able to build in a lot more that way. And we're also hosting, the middle school conference tournament this year. Like I said, that 9th grade.
25th. Yeah. January 25th is the middle school conference tournament here at the high school.
Yeah. So we're getting more and more, and we're looking to probably, on top of being that Owatonna Girls Classic, have something even earlier. It would be fun to be have an early bird dual tournament or something along those lines too, and. Really try to host as much as we can. We know that's a lot of work, and once again, I know we did it last podcast, but thank you to the entire community that, the parents, the wrestlers that do make that go. It's important having that presence and owning these tournaments is definitely a great sign of a healthy program.
Yes.
So.
And thank you to the parents that help out. That it's definitely, even after your dibs are done and you're still helping out, that helps us out a lot.
Absolutely. So, thank you to Coach Jay down at middle school and Coach Spindler and for the OWA Youth and Coach Hovden for all the Men USA work, and we're going to keep hosting as much as we can. Well, we have, speaking of the community, we have a big part of the community, but also an Owatonna alum up next, and look forward to talking with him soon. Welcome back to the Owatonna Wrestling Weekly podcast, brought to you by Coles Electric. And on my right, your left, on YouTube here, we have Owatonna Wrestling alum, Brett Meger. Welcome, Brett.
Thanks so much, Derek, for having me.
Yeah. So for those of you unaware, because he is taller than 5'5", this is a Meger. This is the youngest of the Meger brothers, Mike and Al. And what year did you graduate?
I graduated in 2011.
2011, okay. Got a chance to coach you a smidge when you were in middle school, I believe.
Yep.
Yeah. So, and also, I don't want to, or I do want to point out, you are by far head and shoulders the best golfer and baseball player in your family. So
Yes, we found out that being 6 foot tall is a little bit more conducive to a golf swing,
Some club head
a baseball
speed.
swing. Yes.
Yeah.
Not as conducive to, not as much translated to the wrestling mat, but
Right.
we'll dive into that a little bit more.
Exactly. So, yeah, and so currently living in Owatonna,
Yeah. Yep. Moved back in 2020.
2020.
So I graduated in 2011. I attended Bemidji State University for my undergrad, and then graduated with my mortuary science degree from the University of Minnesota.
Okay.
Dad made us go work somewhere else for a little bit,
Yeah.
and then moved back in 2020, which the best way I can describe that was right in the middle of COVID.
Right smack dab, huh?
So
Gotcha.
did that, but yeah, grew up kind of just talking a little bit about wrestling, but wrestling's pretty much all I knew growing up. So
Sure. Well, because your dad is Glenn Meger, so of the Brick Meger Funeral Home, but also wrestling lower, referee, I'm sure all your youth as well. And yeah, so I'm sure you didn't have a choice in starting wrestling.
That's a great way to put that, actually.
Yeah.
Yep. I've actually heard, official stories from my parents, but if I could just interject, it probably more than likely started where I would be the youngest of my oldest brother, Mike, and then my middle brother, Al, would be attending wrestling tournaments. And what I had to do was I had to tag along, and then about at the age of 5 or 6 years old, I started asking my parents, when can I start wrestling?
There you go.
And then that went from here's a headgear and just put on a pair of shorts and tennis shoes and go out there. And then that transitioned into a wrestling career that I had. So
Gotcha.
so forced, I wouldn't say forced, but when you're tagging along for every weekend tournament in the winter, you're kind of like, hey, I might as well participate as well.
Yeah, you get a little stir crazy. And, yeah. So, well, and just to break it down age-wise, so Mike was a 2003 grad.
Correct.
Al was 06?
2006.
2006, and then you were 11.
2011.
So these guys are fully into the hardcore tournaments by then as you're tagging along and starting.
I was their number one fan.
Yeah, I bet.
This is looking back at it, pre-cell phone, pre-everything. I mean, I remember tracking paper brackets that were taped up on the wall, listening for, I got to listen for Matt Call, 3257 Al Meger,
Yep.
And then you would try and run to the mat. I mean, those are all the memories that I had growing up, and
Gotcha.
and we got to watch some of the, in my life, some of the, best teams that we saw. We got to watch growing up. We were all all the kids that I graduated with. We followed along. We knew every matchup, everything going on. It was it was quite the growing up around the culture around Owatonna wrestling.
Right. Okay. Now, I know Mike and Al spent a little time in the Austin school district. Did you also start in Austin, or were you at Owatonna?
I was born in Austin. That's kind of my claim to fame. I was born where John Madden was born.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Now, here's a guy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, but just shortly after I was born, we moved to Owatonna.
Okay. Gotcha. So you went K through 12 Owatonna.
Correct. Yep.
Gotcha. Okay. So you're the smart one then. Is
Yeah.
What you're saying.
Yeah.
Good deal. No. So that's awesome. Okay. So you started off. Which elementary did you wrestle for?
We attended St. Mary's School. So you're going to make me recall a little bit on how that worked.
Were they just splitting the town up at that time, or was it still school-based?
Gosh, that's a good question. I just remember getting driven to...
I bet it was like a north and south thing even back then. Okay. Yep. Gotcha.
A lot of my recollections were really just at the junior high at the time. They call it the middle school now, but gosh, I just remember going to Friday night meets at the junior high. I mean, that was just
Those
the
rumbles.
thing.
Yep.
And I mean, goodness sakes, I mean, the stands were packed back then. I mean, it was Friday night. It was like everyone was paying attention. So
Now, who was like your practice partners back then, and who'd you hang out with?
gosh, well, we had a pretty big crew. So a graduating class of 2011. I should have written this down, but a couple that come to mind would have been Scott Summer would be number one. I would say Matt Dinsey would be a close second. Chase Michaelitz, Adam Kubat. They were kind of all around my weight class. I should say we had Logan Barrett, Ben Zeman used to be my weight, and then from sophomore to our freshman year to sophomore year, he was like 112, and then next year he was like 160.
Yeah,
so
you got big.
I didn't grow that quick, but
Did you have older Sheffert too?
yep, we had Nick Sheffert. I should have wrote these all down, but we had it was 9 or 10 that of senior class that kind of went all the way through.
Wow.
And so we had a solid core of guys. Everything was I guess, just kind of listening to you and Gabe talk, everything was really team-based back then. We didn't have a ton of individual tournaments. Like Rumble on the Red was like oh my gosh, we're going to go do an individual tournament.
Sure.
So everything was a lot more team-based, and so that was a lot of my memories growing up in wrestling was all about team tournaments. It was all about that camaraderie and so on and such forth. But those are just some of the things that come to mind.
So how'd it go? Were you just a rock star right out the gate, or did it take some time? I know for me personally, it was like definitely a roller coaster of some years. Those farm kids caught up.
Yeah.
How'd that go for you?
I would say right out of the get-go, growing up as a kid, I didn't have a ton of success right away.
Okay.
But I did hit an early growth spurt about 5th, 6th grade. Then I feel like I had a slight edge and was showing a lot more success. And then we got into the junior high days, and that's when things started to get a lot more serious and a lot more technical.
Sure.
And I feel like I just kind of had a steady improvement from there. But when looking back at it, it was just always, I don't know, the best way to describe the progression was we were always just, your goal, no matter when you were in 1st grade, 2nd grade, 3rd grade, you were always looking to be a varsity starter. Yeah. That was just however you needed to get there. You always were, you would watch every wrestler growing up. When you're in 4th grade, you would know who the seniors are, the juniors are, and you were looking forward to having the opportunity to become a starter. So.
Yeah, that's an awesome way to put it. We're starting to take those measures too of like, going forward, trying not to schedule like too much middle school on varsity nights and stuff like that because you become a fan. I was a giant fan of like the original Power Alley in the early mid '90s.
They had wrestling cards back in the day. I collected all of those.
Yeah.
I still do have them.
That's awesome.
So
we're trying to slowly bring back one or two things to add to that because the marketing machine that was Owatonna Wrestling was gigantic. Getting that type of hype. I mean, that's kind of why we do this too.
Yeah.
It's why we have the managers do Instagram and everything. So that's awesome. And then. So middle school, I remember coaching you guys. You were just extremely well-rounded. Like every single weight class was covered.
Yeah, we did. Yep.
Then, so high school-wise, how was that for you? Like going into freshman year and beyond.
Yeah, we were a tight-knit group. We did. Now I'm thinking about a few more names. We had Josh Woodrich. I don't know if you said Logan Barrett. So we did have a pretty well-balanced.
Yeah, that's
class.
Like every weight class.
Yeah, we really did. Yep. We have like a Justin Drugy. I'm forgetting a few through there, but
the Drugis.
Yeah. I should have pulled out my yearbook before.
That's all right.
But as far as going into it, going into high school, it was just the atmosphere around wrestling was just the thing. I mean, it was the culture. I don't know. It's hard to look back at it because that's just all I ever knew between when we once stayed. In 2005, we beat Apple Valley. Right. I mean, these were just like the height of the program, and all the great wrestlers that have came through, all the individual state champions, run all these different things. And when we were entering into the program, we just wanted to try and carry that legacy. Yeah. Keep that going as much as we could. I mean, some of the teams that we were a part of, I mean, a lot of our teams were, in the 50s, because we didn't wrestle a lot of individual tournaments. So, a lot of teams were 50-something, and, we'd lose 2, 3, 4 times a year.
Right.
And one of those would be in state against Apple Valley.
Sure. So how did you do individually and team year by year then?
I should have wrote this down. I guess my last major memory would have been when we were juniors in high school. We took 3rd at state.
Oh, okay.
And so I did battle a little bit about of injury throughout my wrestling career.
Yeah, I recall that.
I tore my ACL when I was a sophomore in high school, and then very next year, I remember I was 9-1 going into the clash, and I tore my labrum. And so I did have a little bit of the injury bug in high school, and then I did actually not go out my wrestling senior year. I just was the manager, and I actually did a little bit of broadcasting.
Oh, yeah.
And I kind of had to make the turning point. I was thinking if I'd have another shoulder or knee injury, that could maybe catch up to me in the long haul. But yeah, I guess the highlight would probably be my last match was wrestling, I believe it was Centennial for 3rd place my senior year, and my last high school match I won was 1 point shy of a tech fall. I won 15-1.
Oh yeah, and now with the 3-point takedowns and
could have been different.
4-point near fall. I know. Yep. I look back on that stuff and it's like, God dang it. That'd be fun.
Yeah. So the sport, and so since I've graduated high school, the sport has just changed so much more. I mean, I look back at, if you had a video clip of a starter from, let's say, like a big rival like Albert Lee, like that was like an unknown thing back in the day. You're like, oh my gosh, you have like footage of how a guy shoots a single. Nowadays, everything's so internet based. Flow Wrestling probably has millions of hours of footage for all the way down to the high school level. I used to just think Flow Wrestling was collegiate or higher, but
it's all covered now.
Yeah, landscape has changed a lot.
Yeah. So take me through, like, what does prime Brett Meger look like takedown wise? Like, what are you hitting?
Oh, I would say if I had to go back in the day, I definitely was not a Jordan Burrow type. I like to be on the edges. So I would say an outside single, like a duck under. I wasn't very strong right down the middle.
Gotcha.
And so I like to shoot both ways. I would say single leg or fireman's carry, things of those natures. So.
And then
my brother Al always taught me, if you fake the outside, if you get him on an outside single, then you fake it that way. That's when you set up the fireman's carry.
Yeah, and then they circle away, but right into the fireman's. Yeah.
Now I wasn't as successful as he was, but I certainly tried to apply. So.
Oh, that's good.
Yep, tried to pick up as much as I could from my brothers, but it was tough because they did a lot of winning, and I was just trying to pick up on it. So.
Sure. Well, then you're on top. How are you getting near fall? How are you getting pins?
I would say I used a lot of tilts back in the day. I have very long arms, long legs, and so I used to try and utilize.
Like with a leg in or just straight tilts? Okay.
Yep, with a leg in or with, I need to brief up on my lingo a little bit, but I don't know if do they call it like a ball and a chain or something?
Yeah, ball and chain.
Yeah,
that type of.
Yep. I would say that was kind of my go-tos in high school, but I would never give up. If I could go back and pin someone every time, to be honest, the old school, either the arm bar or the half Nelson, they stress those all the time back in the program.
Yep.
And it was like, if you could have a good half Nelson or a good arm bar, you can pin people.
Yeah, absolutely.
So.
That's awesome. How about, now this doesn't have to be in match or anything. Do you have like one or two extremely fond memories that you look back at that are PG enough to say on broadcast with your teammates?
There's not, if I had to be put on the spot, there's not one here nor there that just like sticks out. Sure. So I never had, anything major that comes to mind as far as like a heroic match, so on and such forth. because I feel like those tilt a little bit to the heavyweights a little bit sometimes.
Oh, sure,
They
yeah.
more or less have like the heroic match. I was always a little bit of a lighter weight.
How about just even on the bus, hotel? Like
Yeah, but
anything?
that's actually
Yeah,
exactly
okay.
what I was going to go to. Yeah, as far as, the relationships that we had growing up as, high school teammates, so on and such forth, there's some of them my best friends still to this day.
Yeah.
So just going through life, learning. I mean, I'd like to say that cutting weight with your teammates and stuff, so on and such forth, making weight, helping each other battle through those things. I mean, back in the day when we'd make weight, I mean, you didn't just make weight to make weight. Like, you were making weight for the team.
Yeah.
That was the sole focus. You weren't going to let your teammates down. And so if I look back, just the camaraderie that I had, it was just team focused through.
Sure.
And gosh, if I had to look at my, 12-year younger self at this point in time, it's hard not to look at the fact we didn't have cell phones. So we just played games in the gymnasiums. It was, I don't know, the goofy games we came up with and so on and such forth. Those are just some of the fun memories I had, but more importantly, the discipline that wrestling taught me has taken the life lessons I've taken from that have translated into my work life, has translated into my marriage, so on and such forth.
Yeah. So speaking of, I mean, that was very eloquently put. When are we going to get another mini Meger, not just Mike's kids in the program?
Yeah, that's right. So me and my wife, Natalie, are expecting our first June 16th.
Congratulations,
So
man.
thank you.
Yeah.
So I just got married here June 15th this year, and we're expecting our first June 16th. So
Wow.
I don't know if we're going to find the gender out, but we might just have to. But hey, they have girls and boys
I
wrestling.
was about to say,
so-
now it doesn't even
Yeah,
matter.
yeah.
Screw it.
So
Yeah.
that's probably been the biggest thing. I've been a little bit out of the realm a little bit, but just looking at it from afar, seeing the women's or the female program and how much that wasn't a thing when I was in high school.
Yeah.
So there was a couple female wrestlers
right.
that you stumbled across, but seeing that grow, I mean, the sport is it's across the board just changing a lot. So.
Yeah, no, it's great, and honestly, we've had some guests on here too that are like, if it was as prevalent as it was, or now, then my daughter would have been in it.
Absolutely. Yep.
Like honestly, I look back and Paris Hovden probably would have been an absolute beast. So yeah, it's definitely cool that now. I mean, heck, it doesn't really matter. Like, we'll get them in the program either way, and well, that's awesome. And how about any shout outs you want to make here?
Nothing offhand. I guess if I could give one shout out, I would give it to my nephew, Salick Meger. I got to watch him for the first time here, gosh, don't quote me, about a month ago. He had a Friday night meet, and I was like, you know what? I want to go. I want to go watch you wrestle. It brought back a lot of memories being in that gymnasium.
Yep.
And just, I don't know. As far as just watching him continue to grow up and wrestle, I definitely can see me being his number one fan.
That's
so
awesome.
just having a little bit of connection inside the program, and I know my brother and my dad have a lot of love for wrestling, and they've had a ton of involvement. I'm a little bit biased on just being on the fan side of things a little bit.
Sure.
So
Sure.
just being able to watch him. I'm sure my brother has 2 young twins too, Gabriel and Liam. I'm sure they're going to be a year or 2 away from putting a singlet on. I'm already asking them about their wrestling stance.
good.
And they have it. They do. They
That's
do have
good.
a wrestling stance, but we'll give them a few more years to grow up and
Yeah.
get some shoes on. And
Well, and that's the cool part to see too, is like going down to the OWA practice, and it's, you got your older brother Mike, you got Derek Scala, you got Nick Ewell, you got all these guys, and
these are all guys we looked up to growing up as kids. So.
and it's cool to see, because then it's in good hands, especially from the standpoint of not just having a good wrestler or anything like that, but what you were talking about originally of the standards of the culture, and just that is something I'm glad you focused on it so much. Is I don't think other towns really understand. You know, like, well, you see the wins and losses. You don't know what goes into it, and it's a lot of deliberate decisions of it's about the culture, it's about the team.
Yeah.
And then it works out. And then you have a class of 9 guys all the way through. That is rare. Like, if you have any more than 5 in the senior class, because it is such a grueling sport, you know you've done something right. So that's awesome.
Yeah, and I don't want to upset any other high school sports around here, but when I was growing up, I mean, wrestling was the face of Owatonna. I mean, it just, we had some of the top teams in the state. If there wasn't Apple Valley, we would
recruiting people.
Yeah, well,
teams.
just I mean, we would have. I mean, there's a good chance we would have. I mean, in a 15-year period, we'd have potentially 6, 7, 8, 9.
You know what? Let's go for it. Let's go year by year. We won it in '98. 99 was the start of the Apple Valley, like where more kids were transferred in than actually grew up. No, but since then, yeah, it was.
I think they went like 16 some odd years.
Subtract them, and it's like us and Hastings probably back and forth that whole time.
Right.
And
yeah, St. Michael didn't come up until they didn't enter AAA until I think I was graduated. So,
sure. So
rivalries with if I had to side note, I just thought, but probably the culture around the rival with Albert Lee.
Yeah.
I guess if I could, I didn't have any like particular matches. I think I won my last one with them, but just that like Friday night underneath the dome light, that was just Albert Lee. I remember not even being able to sleep the night before that because you were just so excited.
And I'm so jealous. You got to experience that. I was 98 through 01 was somehow a lapse in Faribault had just kind of really fallen off. Albert Lee was in like a reload, not a full reset, but a reload. And then I graduate and suddenly Albert Lee gets good again. And then those were packed. You know, you had to show up by 5:30 p.m. if you wanted a parking spot, and then it's standing room only by the time you guys hit the lamp. So that was cool.
There we go. How about that? The lamp.
Yeah, and now we have a new one, which is great.
I actually have not been to I'm an alumni night. The 23rd, I'll be here.
Yeah, that one's a quad, unfortunately, so we won't be able to do the lamp.
No lamp.
But we're gonna try to work it for the February one and. Maybe pull in another team kind of on the fly on another duel because we got to do it. It's so much fun, especially here. It's
lamp that just gives me goosebumps just thinking about that.
That's why you do it, right?
Yeah.
Like moments like that.
Yeah.
Oh, awesome. Well, Mr. Meger, congratulations on all your success, both in wrestling and then after. We appreciate what you guys do for the community at Brick Meger Funeral Home, and your entire family's been so good to Owatonna wrestling, and we appreciate that. And
do you guys still have I always wonder, I haven't been to a few high school meets.
Sure.
Are the tie-dye singlets still a thing?
We just got rid of them.
Okay. I was just wondering.
Yep. I personally...
when those came out in like 05, my brother Al would have been a junior, that was like the coolest thing ever.
I know. I personally, I couldn't do it. I was like, you know what? No. But you got to see our new white ones.
Okay.
It's kind of a good in-between of all that. But... Well, thank you, sir.
Yeah,
appreciate it. I'm also going to thank Coles Electric one more time. Thank you to everybody over there. And once again, it's the reason of like the Meger family, the Cole family, the Hovdens, the Summers, everybody like that makes this program so great. And we appreciate that. And we'll see you next week.